It's not a game, it's a rich thing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to The Wire. It's Wednesday, and we're about to have a good time tonight because there's so much to go over. We've got NFL, we've got NBA, we've got the new Tiger Woods documentary that just came out on HBO Max. And if you follow us on the H2G podcast, you'll know that we were talking about streaming services, but that's not the H2G podcast that we're doing right now. It's The Wire. And I want to talk about somebody that we all kind of talked about a couple weeks ago during the NBA draft. The name is LaMelo Ball. Let me tell you, he just had his first triple-double, and he's the youngest player to have a triple-double. He was playing, I should say, not just he, but the team was playing the Atlanta Hawks, and he had 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. So my question to you, Richie, is this the norm for LaMelo? Or is the hype going to drop down as the season gets going further down the road? Because we're only, 10, 11, 12 games into the season. But what an accomplishment for this young man. Go right ahead, Richie.
Yeah, okay. Great question, Tony. And honestly, these are always tricky things because sometimes we may say like the Boston Celtics are at the bottom of the bit, right? Like sometimes we have those bold claims. But here's what I will say. First and foremost, what Tony said. Congratulations to LaMelo. LeBron James has a lot of records, but he doesn't have that one now because that was LeBron James' record. LaMelo is for real. There was a lot of hype about Jello, his brother that was a little older than him, and Lonzo, but LaMelo was the one who, let's give it up to Lonzo too. Not because of Lonzo's skills per se. They're growing, and I do think Lonzo will be a great player. I really do, but they're different players. But Lonzo is the one who had to deal with his father overhyping him and actually put LaMelo in a weird spot, right? Because Lonzo got to go to college, came out, had a big baller brand thing, and then his father thought it was a smart idea to make LaMelo shoes, right? So LaMelo's 14 years old. That sounds cool. I got my own shoes. Well, guess what? Now you're not eligible to play basketball in college. So he had to go overseas. So believe it or not, and I say this with sincerity, I think that's what's going to make LaMelo, I think that gave LaMelo even more edge and finesse to his game. Playing in overseas helped him. And I do believe, Tony, it's going to be more towards the latter. Do I think he's going to be a walking triple-double averaging 20 points? No. That was an incredible game. And what's actually crazy about it, Tony, is the previous game he had played Lonzo, his brother, and the Pelicans. And technically, he had a triple-double, but they didn't award him an assist. Because what happened is he chucked it and the guy kind of fumbled it and then he took the shot. But to me, that's an assist. And he was 1 assist short. So regardless, the point is LaMelo saw that happen and was like, you know what? You aren't going to give me an opportunity to not get this time. And he came out the gate swinging. What I think he has that his brother Lonzo is lacking is he has an incredible shot early. This is a young kid. He's 19 years old and he can shoot the three. I think that's a very great tool. And, one of the things his brother Lonzo's struggling with is free throws and 3-point shooting. He's got incredible defense. He's 6'8", prototypical, as is LaMelo. I mean, they both have great opportunity. And I think for Lonzo, he just got a real raw deal with his father and the way he was trying to market him. But I think Lonzo has mass potential. People forget the young man is 23 years old. He's got a long career down the road. And if he can start developing his shot, who knows where he's going to be. But this is about LaMelo. And LaMelo is already legit. LaMelo is the way an NBA player needs to be nowadays as a point guard. Lonzo is what I would consider a traditional point guard. Lonzo's a facilitator. Lonzo's a defensive player who's also going to grab those rebounds. He's more of a Magic Johnson. He's more about getting his guys and kind of playing that LeBron style where he finds the right player every time. LaMelo's more I would say more like James Harden and kind of Steph Curry to an extent, but much closer to James. And what I mean by that is Steph Curry only averages career-wise about 5 assists and this year's only averaging about 6. He's never broken over 7. LaMelo's going to be a 10 to 12 assist type player. He's going to be more like James Harden, where he's going to draw attention and he's going to be able to distribute. And I truly believe that's why I think LaMelo will be more successful in this league, is because his play style suits the league's play now. But in a traditional, like if you put these two kids, in early 2000s, I think Lonzo would be more successful. But the bottom line is that's why I think LaMelo will be successful, is he has the tools needed. He's got the 3-point, he can play defense, and he's good at free throws, which in this NBA with point guards, all they care about is 3 points. Most of them don't even facilitate. Dame Lillard, like Russell Westbrook is a facilitator in paper and name only. And I would say that's a kind of a good way to describe LaMelo. I think he's a Russell Westbrook that can shoot, but not drive. And I think that's what's going to make him have his own spot in this league. I don't believe there's one of those scoring players that just shoot the ball and don't really drive to distribute. Like, for instance, Kyrie Irving would be the next closest thing you would kind of talk about, but Kyrie's not a distributor. He averages 6.2 assists per game. He doesn't really do that. He just shoots threes as well. So I think LaMelo will be the first true shooting facilitator. I do believe he's going to be that type of kid who can get 18 to 24 a game and will average over easily over 10 assists. Now, whether he'll continue this rebounding streak is early to say, but I'm impressed by a young kid, 19 years old, who's picking up boards. Usually that's the thing you see, is that tendency to like avoid the physical contact. So for a 19-year-old to be like going all in, him and like Luka Doncic are incredible to me. Like how young they are, and both of them being able to play in that foreign league, I think is going to help. So that's pretty much my take on LaMelo. But Justin, you were the guy to bring up LaMelo originally, and to Tony's point, our great GOAT drafted him. And I'll tell you what, people were making fun of him and he always drafts poorly, but I kind of said LaMelo was one of those foolproof things, and it feels that way. What's your take on this whole thing, this Ball family, having 3 guys, and then you have the youngest kid clearly looking potentially the most successful?
I love this, man. I love when sports gives us the opportunity, and like all the different media platforms immediately picked up on giving us an insight to the Ball family, and particularly the relationship between Lonzo and LaMelo, and seeing I don't know if you guys have seen the video of their little one-on-one from back in the day.
Yeah.
But that's great. And, Lonzo's like, clearly we staged that, clearly. And LaMelo's like, no, that's exactly how I remember it. Exactly. One more time for the people in the back. 22 points, 12 rebounds, and 11 assists. And yeah, maybe but to your point, Richie, one game before that, he was 1 assist away, and it was like kind of a fluke, and it's just cool to see someone that driven and that talented at this stage. Who knows what the league will do to him, but I congratulate him. Gotta congratulate Michael Jordan for continuously proving people on the wire wrong up in here. And,
not everybody. Not everybody.
We have one Jordan homie right there. Tony.
Not everybody.
Even Gordon Hayward, who, by the way, had a career high 46 points the other night. So
I think I stood up for my MJ as well. I'm pretty
not
sure.
Everybody.
Okay, so here's how I would say. Tony was vehemently defending him. Justin, you were like, let's give him a chance. And me and Mario. I'm still saying he's the worst GM of all time. I just said LaMelo is a can't miss, and he's looking like a potentially.
I think
wouldn't say worst GM of all time. He's a bad GM, but I wouldn't say worst GM of all time. The Knicks GM is the worst GM/owner out of any owners ever in the NBA.
Kwame Brown. That's all I'm going to say.
Hey, listen, he was a part of an organization where he didn't actually lead the Wizards. He was actually a person that made decisions with somebody else, and they made that decision collectively. Was it a poor decision? Absolutely, it was a poor decision. But it also was a poor decision for the team that drafted what's his name before Michael Jordan, because he didn't even have a career. So you see what I'm saying? So anything can happen. You can have busts. Things can happen in that nature. But yes, LaMelo is 19, like you said. LaMelo is 6'8". Let me say that again. 6'8", wow. I mean, this kid is going to dominate in a good way. And I think it's going to be awesome. I like your comparison as James Harden. But, you know, James Harden is what, 6'5", 6'6"? Am I being?
Yeah, he's 6'4".
Okay, I thought I was being nice. You know, guys, we're bad with numbers. What we think is 5, we go up a little bit. It's not 5 inches, it's 7 inches. We extend things all the time. But anyway, long story short, I'm not going to go into it, but yes, not everybody was adamant about Jordan being the worst GM, but it looks like it's going to turn around for, you know, that team down there that he's leading. So absolutely.
Now, just side note, I will say this: like seeing LaMelo's play and seeing what Gordon Hayward is able to do. Gordon is so far looking like the Utah Jazz Gordon and not the Boston Celtics Gordon. So again, to Tony's point, maybe he saw something, like actually watching Gordon play, like, you know, one-on-one and things like that we didn't see. And again, if this is the Gordon Hayward of the Utah Jazz, with this LaMelo, you know, like LaMelo and Terry Rozier, this Charlotte team could easily get in, you know, 8th, 7th seed. And who knows in a couple years, this could be a 4, 3 seed. You know, they could start creeping up. They're young, they're talented, and honestly, I love to see it. I you know, for so many years, me being this type of person, Michael Jordan's been getting harassed about Charlotte overall and him as an owner and his effectiveness, and that he doesn't want to win. And I'm sure, like, as any of you know who know Michael Jordan, it eats away at him that people say these things. So, you know, good luck to Charlotte. They're off to a pretty damn good start, and awesome job by LaMelo, man. But Justin, you actually have a topic I was very interested in talking about.
Yeah, man. I was just going to say, for LaMelo Ball, congratulations if I didn't get that out there. Not a bad 10th game in the NBA, if you do ask me. Okay, so he got brought up. So I do have a question for you guys. With everything going on surrounding Mr. James Harden, should the 76ers reject all James Harden trade offers? Would he be an asset to the smooth, possibly best in the league train they have rolling now? Or would his classic antics tear apart the chemistry that Philadelphia seems to be riding so high on? Because they're smooth right now, man. They're smooth. They've got a good thing going. Tony, what are your thoughts right off the rip?
I mean, what are you giving up to get James Harden? Because if you're giving up, you know, chemistry and, you know, continuity, then it's going to be a bad trade. Obviously, you've got things working for you right now. You're 7-3. You're in first place. The Boston Celtics are behind you at 7-3 as well. It's early in the season, so anything can happen. I mean, if someone gets hurt and goes down, and you know you start falling down a couple games, you know, then maybe I would entertain the idea. Because right now he's what the Rockets are 3-5, I believe. So you know, they're not looking very promising, especially in a Western Conference that you can't fall back. You know, this is, you can't be, you know, the bad team and then kind of get hot at the end, because those teams are going to fly. And you've got people on the rise. You know, Phoenix right now? Phoenix? Are you kidding me? Phoenix right now is hot. I mean, so the Western's got all kinds. They got the Lakers, they got the Suns, they've got the Clippers, Jazz, Warriors, Mavericks, Trailblazers. You know, the Thunder are in 8th place, but you're way down in 13th at 3-5 as the Houston Rockets. I don't know. Is he electric enough to trade for? Absolutely. But once again, what are you giving up in order to get him? And if it's the bare minimum, which it won't be, then do it. But if it's something that's going to cost you more in the long run, I don't think he's worth that much to me as an owner for me to take that risk.
Richie, what are your thoughts, man? They've got a momentum, something that's young, fresh, and could be moving towards something great. And you can't necessarily dispute considering a 4 or 5 time consideration for the MVP. You know, I mean, like, what are your thoughts, man?
Yeah, this is a tricky one. I'll say this much. To Tony's point, it does matter what you're giving up. I'll say this right now, though. I would go for it personally. And I remember talking about this on the wire previously. For me, my thought process on what is the best 1-2 punch. We've always talked about, Kyrie and Kevin Durant recently, and we talked about LeBron and Anthony Davis. To me, even if you have to give up Ben Simmons, and I think you would have to, but doing a James Harden and Joel Embiid would be equivalent to what I consider that LeBron James Anthony Davis. And what I mean by that is not, LeBron 6'8". What we saying on a good day, James Harden 6'5", and obviously there's like a 50-pound difference between them. It's not their play styles, but what it is the pick and roll. What LeBron is still fantastic at is penetrating and getting to the hole, which we all love to do. But James Harden is different. He's a different cat. He takes a high pick, and he goes for a three, right? So it's a different style of a pick and roll. It's more what the Golden State Warriors were so effective with Steph Curry. So having that is incredible because Joel Embiid, even though he's a big boy, he actually shoots 37% from the three-point line. So you can easily, you try to stick on James and Joel stays over there, boom, three-pointer on a pretty good three-point shot. So I think there's incredible opportunity for that. Now, Ben Simmons is LeBron James minus the scoring prowess. So, and he's super young. Believe he's 23 years old. It's crazy. He's been in the league for 5 years. He's 23 years old, I think, maybe 24, 6'8", prototypical, like what I discussed about with Lonzo, that true distributor that's not looking to shoot, but that's what they need. Like right now, they got lucky. They picked up Seth Curry, not Steph, but Seth, the brother. And Seth Curry is having a career year, almost 19 points per game, I believe. 18 something, I don't remember. But I think he's shooting 40% from the arc. He's their only three-point threat besides Danny Green at small forward. Like their backup is Matisse Thybulle, and he shoots 22%. And I don't know about Shake Milton. I don't think he has a good shot. But the point being is they don't have a lot of three-point shooting. And unfortunately in this league, as much as I'm a big guy and how you win, and again, the Lakers didn't win with three-pointers, I firmly believe if you subtract, and it's a big subtraction, but if you subtract Ben Simmons and possibly Danny Green, which is again a big give, but Danny Green's on a 1-year contract, you subtract those boys with maybe Matisse Thybulle, you pull them in and you get James Harden and you give away a first, you're gonna have to. Then you got James Harden, Seth Curry, Terrence Ferguson, who's just a body, but he's a 6'9" defensive player. That's all you don't need him to score. Seth Curry, like I just mentioned, James Harden averages 32 points a game, like in his career at this point, right? 32 points a game. Seth Curry, that's 18 right there. And I'm lowballing him. He might start doing better. Who knows? It's early. So he's at 18. You're talking 50 points between two guys, not including Joel Embiid. You don't need that. That small forward just needs to stand there and get paid, honestly, like realistically. So, and we're not even talking about Tobias Harris, their power forward, who's also an incredible player. So what this would do is reduce their depth and increase their starting lineup. Now, does that mean they can win with it? And that's a great question, and we don't know. Because one thing Philadelphia does currently have is depth. But as we've seen before with the Lakers, their roster and their depth wasn't really what got them there. They just had the right pieces in the right moments. They had Dwight Howard to slow down Jokic because Anthony Davis was not capable of doing so. So they had the right pieces to counter the teams they were playing, but it was mostly predominantly on the 7 players they had. And I believe Philadelphia could have an incredible 7-ish players, including Dwight Howard, making this trade. That's those specific players I mentioned. Now, who they end up doing, because again, we talked about this before on The Wire. We had 3 first-round picks for a point guard that I would not consider of James Harden's caliber. So that's what makes this such a challenge, is when you have that goose egg where somebody makes a really stupid trade, allegedly, it makes everything else in like quality challenging. Now, for me, I think that was the right pick from Milwaukee, complete side note. But the point being is James Harden worth trading if you're Philadelphia? Absolutely, if it doesn't completely ruin your franchise. I think for the Rockets, they need to trade him because John Wall is looking incredible, and John Wall is a point guard, guys. He's 6'3". He has no business playing shooting guard, and he's averaging off of his double torn ACLs and his knee injuries and surgeries. Hasn't played in 3 years. He's averaging 22 points a game, and he's just came back into the league. John Wall might be that 28 point per game guy again. So you have an opportunity to trade away a perennial superstar who clearly wants no business with you. And in my opinion, you have a guy who might be 85% of what he used to be. Trade him now while he's still worth it, because down the road, he may not be worth it. He is still a hot commodity. Yes, he's done stupid things, but he is James Harden, as Justin said. 5 years in a row could have been MVP. The leading scorer in the league for the last 4 years. I mean, the highest percentage usage, that matters. People talk about it as ball hog. That is the guy willing to hold the ball and take all the blame. And, I respect guys like Michael Jordan was that. The guy who's willing to take the shot, that's him. And don't get me wrong, in his playoffs, he's failed, but he's always been willing to take that shot. And with Philadelphia, that's what they've lacked. They've lacked that closer. They should have beat Toronto the year Toronto won. And it went to 7 games when they were up 2-1, and then they were up 3-2. And then they folded and they collapsed. And they need that guy. They need that killer instinct. Because we talked about it, Joel Embiid's a clown and he likes to be playful, and Ben Simmons can't shoot. So who's taking the last shot on the current roster? That's my concern. I think James Harden has the capability of doing so.
Interesting. Tony off a pretty legit depth chart, maybe a good fantasy depth chart. To your point earlier, would it be worth it when it comes to the synergy of that team and the cohesion that they've got going on right now? We briefly mentioned his off the court and on the court and locker room antics. Is that gonna, is that gonna be a toxin? Is that gonna be a poison?
Well, I'm not gonna waste a lot of time here. I'm gonna be real blunt and straight to the point. Richie pretty much covered everything. Okay, Philadelphia doesn't have a closer. It would be very important for them to actually implement or make this trade work for them if they don't kill their franchise. And it's good for the Rockets because the Rockets would then have to rebuild, but they rebuild with a very young Ben Simmons, because I agree with Richie, Ben Simmons would have to go. John Wall, you've got maybe 2 years left on John Wall's legs, but after that, you're going to have draft picks, because you're going to get draft picks that come out of this deal. Is he toxic? The 76ers don't need a reason why they fold this season. They've had excuses for all the other seasons. They don't need that reason. Harden will be that reason. Okay? Don't do it. You're all in. You're playing well. Continue with the cards that you have because you're playing it right. As soon as you start to give away some of your chips, you might as well just fold, because you're going to get into the playoffs. And I really think that Harden is toxic. I really think that, he will bring that 76ers franchise back to where they were 5 years ago. You've already come out of that 5 years ago to where you are right now. Why would you go back? Okay. So for me, it's very easy. Stick with what you're doing. I understand if it made sense, you would do it. But honestly, for me, don't do it. Don't do it.
Yeah, that's a good take. I like it. And if they don't trade early, I'm with Tony. You don't trade mid-season. You need as much games for chemistry. But honestly, Tony makes a very valid point. This guy for 5 years, allegedly, we can't know, but we're locker room, Russell Westbrook played 1 year with him, couldn't take it. And they're best friends. Like they played like Pee-wee basketball together when they were 6 years old. So kind of toxic. I do have one topic, guys, I want to talk about. One last topic. Kyrie Irving. Now this is very serious, and I we've been ragging on him a lot. One of the things I want to talk about, this is not necessarily about basketball. This is about athletes' perception of media and fans and potential entitlement I think fans tend to have. So Kyrie Irving has been out for personal reasons. We don't know what those personal reasons are. Steve Nash is also telling the media he doesn't know what those personal reasons are. So I'm not a huge fan of what I just said. I don't believe Steve Nash had any business telling us he doesn't know, even if that is the case, because we don't know what Kyrie Irving's currently going through, right? And I want to say this from my perspective, and then of course I love for you guys' opinion. What bothers me about this is a quick example was basically Black Panther. Everyone loves Black Panther. It's always been like the movie, and everyone loved Chadwick Boseman. And respect, rest in peace, man. But what was happening recently is he was losing weight, and they were actually making fun of him and calling him Crack Panther on social media, right? And this is kind of my point. We don't know what Kyrie Irving's going through, and he doesn't owe us anything. He doesn't need to tell us why he has personal reasons he's taking a game off. He has children. He has a son. Who knows what's going on? For all we know, his son has COVID right now. We don't know. And it's not our fucking business, quite frankly. And I think I get frustrated by this because what you hear is these like things about, oh, well, Kyrie Irving's the coach. And, we make jokes about it because he is, quite frankly, a diva, and he's a lot to deal with as a basketball player and ego. But when I see things like this, I get very frustrated. But again, whether you guys agree or not is no problem. But I'm just curious about you guys' take on what do you think? Like, do you think athletes are responsible for telling us their lives, quite frankly, right? Like, for instance, personal reasons. As a loyal fan, some people say, hey man, I wanted you to play because we need you to win this game. Can you at least tell us what that is? And again, some fans feel that way. Some fans are, ragging on him because of who he is. He's a flat earther. What we talked about him being, we don't need a coach. And, we've been getting on those types of things. But I've already said my perspective, but I'm curious about you guys. Do you guys think athletes should be giving information on why they're not, again, they're getting paid to play these games. So when they're disappearing, understandably for some people, they have questions. But do you think personal reasons are something that they need to disclose? So Justin, what do you think, man?
Well, all right. And I'm probably not going to have the popular opinion, but that's okay. I agree to some extent. If you were asking Justin, all thoughts aside, should they be obligated to respond to questions of the media? No, nobody should. However, this is my issue with the way athletes choose to act in the face of the media. They create that entitlement. They give that option to their fan base. They give that option to the media. And when you're calling yourself Aristotle and when you're actively jousting the media and looking for response, it can't come as too much of a shock that when you stop talking to the media, that they want to know where you went. We've talked on the other show about Adele and how, everybody wants to know what's going on with why aren't you writing music? You just had a divorce. There should be all kinds of music. I think it's ridiculous, but at the same time, to certain athletes, actors, musicians, you can't expect anything less. Not that it's right. He certainly could be going through any number of things. It could be a family emergency. He could be on some kind of drug and having to deal with that. And addiction is a terrible, disgusting, nasty thing that people shouldn't pry into. But on the same token, when you are that forward with yourself and your persona, and you create this character of yourself, that's you've fed that beast long enough. When you stop feeding it, it's still going to be hungry.
Yeah. Okay. Fair point, man. Tony, what do you think? What is your perspective on like athletes and their access to fans and the media, things of that nature?
I mean, when it comes down to it, you're playing a sport, you're in entertainment, whatever it might be. And if it has nothing to do with what you're working on, then flat out, there's no need. People need to stay in their damn lane, personally. If he's going through something personal, let him work through it personally. You don't need to ask all the if, what's, whys. It's not important. When he's ready, he'll come out and say what it is that it was, and he has that right to do that. Now, if you want to protect your image, then sure, you might, come out and say some things if you think that, something gets around and you want to shut it down. I don't like what the media is doing with it about, well, he hasn't played in the game since the Capitol riots, or, it could be COVID, or it's drug related, or, they're insinuating what it could be without knowing what it is. And then, you have knucklehead fans who run with it. They think that just because they read that story on ESPN or, the NBA Association.com, whatever, they think, oh, well, that's valid. Well, no, there's three sides to the story. Okay. There's your side, there's the other person's side, and then there's the truth. Okay. So flat out, I'm not going to go on this whole long tangent, but to answer your question, it's nobody's damn business why he's not playing the game. And I'll give Kyrie a shout out for his teammates respecting him, not Steve Nash, but his teammates, because I'll tell you what Durant said. He said, I won't speak for Kyrie. I'll let him do that for himself. I'm sure you guys will see him soon after he comes back. Okay. We support him 100% and we're praying for him. So, that's what you're supposed to say. You're not supposed to say, well, I don't have any information. If I had information, I'd tell you, or whatever, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You support 100%. If Justin was missing and something was going on and he didn't want us to know about it, and someone asked me from a publication to say, hey, what's going on with Justo from the Justo's Best, from the H2G podcast, from The Wire? We want to know. I would say exactly what Durant said. I'd say, slow your roll. Okay. When it's time for you to know, you'll know. But as of right now, it's none of your business. It's none of my business. He'll work it out. And when he works it out, I'm sure he'll fill us in.
And I'm glad you brought up the Kevin Durant, because Tony, that's kind of how I feel. Well, I feel like we have very similar attuned opinions there. If it was sport related, like there's a knee injury and things like that, okay, well, that's what needs to be reported. But I think this is personal. It has nothing to do with the business. It has nothing to do with the organization. And I just think, this is an opportunity for, realistically, Steve Nash to grow as a coach. Because again, I think he's the one who kind of dropped the ball, so to speak, because I was so shocked he had said that. And he's just, fanning the flames worse by constant, I still have no updates on Kyrie. It's like, well, come on, man. And I feel like what Kevin said is, well, I feel like Kevin need to talk to Steve Nash and be like, hey, man, do I need to coach you on how to PR? So it is what it is. Hopefully Kyrie's okay. But, I just noticed this because this is not just one sport. This happens in sports. It happens in media. Justin mentioned about entertainment. Anyone who's considered essentially a public figure. I feel like a lot of people seem to feel like you have this sense of entitlement to know and have knowledge and understanding. But again, it's like business, personal life. They're two different things. Does anyone have anything they'd like to shout out about before we get off the NBA? Because we're about to hit
I was just gonna send it to commercial. I'm ready for some football.
All right, man. Well, why don't you send it to commercial and give us a little sneak peek on our special guest?
Oh yeah. Well, we got Sahe joining us here in just a few. We're gonna talk playoffs, baby, in the NFL. You're watching The Wire. Don't go anywhere. All I'm saying is you got to consider the fact that if you feed social media long enough, it's just going to bite back.
No, I agree.
Hey there, it's Justo from the H2G podcast.
Hello there.
Are you ready for season 4?
Yeah.
I love the way it sounds.
Gotta get my meat wad voice ready.
This season will be bigger and better than ever.
But thank you, man. I'll take it. It's good to see you.
Catch the H2G podcast season 4, Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook and YouTube.
Oh, the best part of my week.
And don't miss The Wire every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
It's been a long time coming.
We'll see y'all next week.
Welcome
Welcome
to the H2G
to the H2G
To the H2G
podcast.
We'll see you there.
All right. Welcome back to The Wire. We've got NFL coming up for you right now. I want to tell you, Boy, oh boy, wild card weekend. Was it ever so wild? Home field advantage don't mean shit. I'm just telling you, it don't mean shit. Because 4 out of the 6 teams won, and they weren't playing at home. So here's the rundown real quick. You got the Colts versus the Bills. The Bills took care of business at home 27-24. You have the Rams who played the Seahawks in Seattle, and they won 30-20. Those Rams took care of business. The Bucks 31 to Washington 23 with this quarterback. Who knew about this kid? I don't know what's going on, but he made it interesting. Every game was close except for one, and we'll get to it. We had the Ravens at 20 versus the Titans 13. The Saints 21 and the Chicago Bears with 9. And then finally, they ended off the Sunday night game. The Browns, who finally made the playoffs, got to play the so-called big brothers of the AFC North, the Steelers, and the Steelers looked like ugh. Browns won 48. The Steelers somehow managed to get some points on the board to get 37, but that game was over well before the second quarter even started. The Browns were up 28-0. So let's get into it. Sahe, I want to know what your takeaway was for the Bucks-Washington game. I see you have the jersey on. I see you representing. I know what you're going to talk about, but I want to hear how you feeling right now, where you're at right now.
Yeah. I feel like we did what we were supposed to do. We got the weak NFC East team. We were supposed to win, and we won. Now, did we blow them out like everybody expected? No, I expected a blowout. Alex Smith was down. Tyler Heineke, am I saying his name right? Heineke? It makes me want a beer. He came in and lit it up and gave the Redskins a chance to win. As a fan, I was nervous. I know a lot of us fans, like, we're in the game chats and the threads, like, man, what's going on? What's going on with our defense? And that's been the big talk, on all the media networks is, yeah, our offense looks good and they're doing what they're supposed to do, but our defense is looking terrible. We let a guy off the street come in and look like Joe Montana, you know what I'm saying, in this rise to the top. Like Tyler Heineke, he might do some things next year, but I think teams are going to figure it out. And if you watch Bucs games like I have, I'm a fan. We always let backup quarterbacks just do whatever they want on us, and then you never hear from them again. So it's going to be interesting to see where Tyler Heineke goes from here. But I'm ready for the Saints. We got the Redskins out the way. I'm ready.
Bring on the Saints. Now the Saints are 2-0 versus the Bucks this year. And it's hard for a team to go 3-0. And it's never happened to Tom Brady. So I think you've got a lot of good stuff on your side right now, because I think the Buccaneers will take care of business against the Saints. But hey, you know me with predictions. I'm as bad as Skip Bayless. But anyway, the Cowboys. But anyway, Richie, real quick, I want to pick your brain real quick, okay? Your boy, okay, Donald, okay. Sack Beast. Seahawks supposed to take care of this game. LA Rams, the number 1 defense in the NFL, coming into Seattle. It was supposed to be Russell Wilson's gonna take care of business, but it didn't happen. The Rams pulled off a victory. Can you give me a little bit about how you feeling about your boy?
Yeah, well, I'm actually a little nervous for my boy because he injured himself actually early. He had 2 sacks in the first quarter, but then he injured himself. He's got torn cartilage on his rib. It's very uncomfortable to breathe. Now, Aaron Donald's my dude. He's not a human being. I believe if anyone can breathe through a cartilage rip on a rib, it's Aaron Donald. And I think the big reason why he wasn't put back into the game is because Russell Wilson and the Seahawks were not ever in the game. So they didn't want to risk, they wanted to give Aaron that opportunity to kind of see where he's at. But Aaron did work, man. Like I said, 2 sacks in a quarter and a half, man. That's crazy. That defense is legit. Honestly, though, I don't want to talk about the Rams, really. I really want to go into the Seahawks. I mean, they start off hot. They always do. Russell Wilson always starts off hot. Always. And he always falls off like a cliff on the tail end of things. But this is just all kinds of disappointing, guys. Jared Goff with his jacked up left hand wasn't even supposed to play. But I don't know if you guys see John Wolford. He was kind of like Heineke. He's just this running little goofy little guy that's been, played the other game, and he looked impressive. But prayers out to him, man. I hope he's okay. I haven't actually seen the reports on it. I don't know what happened. I mean, we saw what happened. So for those viewers who didn't, he was kind of running. He's a running quarterback, and I honestly equate it to saying this as in like a Tim Tebow, in that I don't think he's a great arm, but he finds a way to rally the troops, and he's been rallying the troops. And he kind of dove head first. And so the guy kind of brought his shoulder in on the Rams, and he hit him, or the Seahawks, excuse me. And he hit him, and his shoulder hit his helmet, and it looked like it compressed his neck. Now, honestly, on the NFL, shame on them, because recently they've been having the players walk. So he walked all the way to the tunnel, and then they put him on the stretcher. It didn't make any sense to me. I was like, wait, what? Like, why wouldn't you just pick him up like you would normally do? Like, COVID or not, that doesn't make any sense. So hopefully John Wolford's okay. We'll have to see. But very disappointing outing by the Seahawks. DK Metcalf tried to ball out, 2 touchdowns, had his 100 yards, but it just kind of goes to show that, you can have a fantastic quarterback. You can have a top 5 wide receiver. Easily, you could argue top 3, but I mean, wide receiver is such a big market. Tyler Lockett, a very solid number 2. But when you don't have a true running game, that imbalance really gets to you, man. And I really feel like that was a big part of it. Is, don't get me wrong, we're going to talk about a game where the running back had a much worse performance, but Chris Carson just wasn't getting it done. When Russell Wilson had almost as many yards as him in 4 carries, it just wasn't a good game for Seattle. And it's disappointing when you think of it from the perspective, they're 12-4, guys. And they started off so hot, and just like Pittsburgh, I feel like they just fell off a cliff. Whereas the Rams are kind of going the other trajectory. Now, I don't have faith in them. And it's not because of defense. It's not because Aaron Donald. But when your best quarterback is a guy named John Wolford, who hadn't played in the NFL before last week, and Jared Goff, the guy you pay like $36 million a year, got benched for John Wolford, you're not in good shape. So I don't have any faith in their quarterbacks, and how are they going to win the game? Truthfully, like, how are they going to win that game? I just don't see how they win the game. So having said that, I don't have much hope for the Rams, but what I will say is, hopeful to John Wolford, hopeful to Aaron Donald. Hopefully they can at least play. That game was never in the bag. It was just one of those games where it looked closer than it was. Metcalf getting the touchdown in the second half made it look decent. 30-20 is not indicative of this score. Kind of like another game we're going to talk about that was the Sunday night game. It looked closer than it really was. This is a team that has such a good defense, and actually after paying the running back and then paying Goff, they're kind of just in a bad cap space. And it's really unfortunate, because when you look at the amount of talent they have on that defensive line as a whole, it's sad to see. But I'll say this, Aaron Donald, you sir proved once again why you are the man. And while he may not win Defensive Player of the Year, I actually think that's going to TJ Watt. I think he kind of had a goose egg for a whole game, if I remember right. So we'll get to that later. But Aaron Donald, man, killing it, man. I think he would have had 5 sacks that game if he didn't get injured.
Yeah, I hope he plays. I
love watching Aaron Donald, man.
Mm-hmm. He's a beast. And Richie, we don't have to go very much longer, because we're getting into it right now. I'm bringing up Justin, the PS4 L, the Pittsburgh Steeler for life. I'm bringing him in real quick. Listen, so Nick Chubb owned the Steelers on Sunday night. Baker Mayfield did enough to just preserve the win. and he played outstanding. No turnovers. They had every reason to lose this game, every excuse. Their head coach wasn't there. Their all-star offensive line coach wasn't there. They had backups of offensive line that were in there. And guess what? The team that had 70 plus consecutive games with a sack didn't have a sack that game. The Steelers didn't even sack Baker Mayfield one single time. Tell me, Justin, what's going on with this game?
I'm gonna break the game down for you. And this is you've heard me on both sides of the Steeler ball this season. I have said, first of all, from the very beginning, they've been fraudulent. I've said that. I've said this is not the team that everyone thinks it is. I've even been argued on this show that I'd rather have the team that can figure out how to win. Well, they can't figure it out anymore. They can figure out how to put up points in the late game, but that's it. So yeah, let's break it down. Pittsburgh lost 48-37. 48-37 to the Cleveland Browns. That's giving Cleveland their first postseason victory since '94. Okay. For the fans out there, for the Steeler fans that I know what you guys are all saying, and I'm a Steelers fan. Let's get this straight. Mayfield went 21 for 34, 263 yards and 3 touchdowns. Ben Roethlisberger went 47 for 68, 501 yards and 4 touchdowns. One might be inclined to think that clearly this game did not come down to QB performance. Or did it? It did. From where I'm sitting, and Tony didn't get me the best seats, but the Steelers got way behind the 8 ball and they did it early, okay? Let's just look at the first 6 drives. This will give you everything you need to know about the game that happened. First drive, they made 1 play for negative 20 yards and a fumble that led to a touchdown. Second drive, takes them 7 plays to move 23 yards before Ben throws a pick. The first of 4 on the day, might I add. Moving to the third drive, make it real quick for you because they did too. 3 and out, move the ball 9 yards. Fourth drive, they made 3 plays on the ball, moved it 1 yard, and boom, Ben throws another pick. Fifth drive, they make a decent effort. Now we finally see a decent effort. The drive lasted a whole 11 downs. They moved 37 yards and had to punt it away. Sixth drive, they moved it 8 yards and 3 plays, and boom, just like that. 3 picks in the first 6 drives of the game. You can't win. You cannot win a football game when you play 6 consecutive drives that poorly. I personally believe that majority enough percent of that locker room simply just does not care. Take majority enough for what you will. But when you have players on the team, difference makers on the team that are dancing on logos and making TikToks, all while possessing what I would consider the most undeserved 12-4 record that I've ever seen in my entire life, you can simply not be successful. You can't. A mindset like that is as nearly as contagious as COVID-19. It'll wreak havoc on any given group of people that have to spend more than half of their week together. It becomes poison. It becomes a toxic poison. But am I ashamed to be a Steelers fan? No, I'm not ashamed to be a Steelers fan. However, if my job was to oversee any facet of operations within that company, I'd be humiliated. I would be beside myself and hiding in a closet. And I'd be spending the next 2 weeks, if not longer, in my office trying to come up with the antidote to the poison that's going on, because this team lacked focus. They lacked a give a damn. They lacked a give a damn. They were 11-0 at one point in this season, and I didn't believe it then. They deserve this loss. Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt, do your thing. They were at, between them, 124 yards. Hunt walked in a pair of touchdowns. The Browns, in my opinion, they saw blood in the water and they hacked it up. However, Cleveland, I don't believe that this is proving yourself. I think we're going to have to take a long, hard look at Cleveland in the up and coming week and see if they really have any believable shot of winning this. But as Tony likes to say, any given Sunday, who knows? Pittsburgh's out. Who cares? Not me. I'm excited to see what's next.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
We're not changing the topic. No. You can be a Steeler fan all you want. This for the fact that they haven't won they finally won a playoff game, man. Like that's huge. And again, like back to your previous point about the organization, I agree with you. It's completely toxic. Look, you said I'll say this about the team. They are arrogant and they don't care. That's the worst part about it. Like, if I look at this Cleveland team and I look at this Pittsburgh team, and I said it a couple weeks ago, Cleveland's a better team, period. Not even factoring in the fact that they're missing players. They're just a better team. And if you're Pittsburgh, like to your point, you should be ashamed of that. Like, bottom line, you're royalty in football, and Cleveland is clearly not. But Cleveland proved everything with this game. They didn't have a fucking head coach, and they outcoached the head coach, who's the coach of the Steelers, a guy we gave credit for earlier in the year. We talked about how incredible Mike Tomlin has been at being consistent and at least staying neutral, if not always winning. And this one's on Tomlin to me. Honestly, there's a lot of things I could say. This is on Mike Tomlin. I disagree about Ben Roethlisberger. He threw the ball 68 times. This is on Mike Tomlin. How do you get out coached by a coach who can't even communicate and he's sitting at home watching in the basement? That's Mike Tomlin got out coached by that guy. That's how bad he got out coached, man. They were not prepared to play. They played like dog shit, like you said. But to me, that's not on Ben. You throw the ball 70 times, you're going to have at least 3 picks. I mean, that's just going to happen. He threw the ball 68 times. They got to run the ball. I know they were down, but that's my point.
He had 3 picks in 6 drives. The first 6.
And that's the point, though. He mitigated it, which is why the game they almost turned it around. Yes, it's an 11-point game. They almost turned it around after having 3 picks in 6 drives. After being down 28-0, they had an opportunity to turn it around. And that's kind of my point, that Mike Tomlin let the game get out of control. If that game didn't get out of control at the beginning, and you can blame that on Ben, but the point is, if that game didn't get out of control, they still could have won that damn game. I blame Mike Tomlin. These dudes were not ready to play, and it showed. It showed from the get-go. It showed from Mike Pouncey chucking it past Ben's head and it being a 20-yard fumble. Like, they were not ready to play, and that is fucking disappointing. But we've all talked about how fraudulent they are, and all I hope is this is a reality check for them and those players that don't care. Seeing Ben in tears with Pouncey on the sideline made me sad, man. And I don't like the Steelers. I don't like Ben Roethlisberger as a human being, let alone a football player. But you never want to see that. You never want to see your leaders and the people who care and they give a damn and they work so hard for that franchise, to see them like that. And then you got a guy like Juju crying because he realizes, like, hey man, these dudes that might have been there last year and y'all blew it. Like, they blew it. They're not. Now, were they going to win the championship this year? Any given Sunday? Probably not. But you know what? They should have beaten Cleveland. They should have at least went to Kansas City and gave a shit. They should have at least tried for Ben and Pouncey. Man, Ben is looking old. He's looking injured, but you know what? He's still trying. And I shit talked about the fact that Ben gets paid so much, but you know what? That's what we call historical. You know, that's a legacy of him trying to carry this fucking team. And he tried to carry this team, man, but this team didn't give a shit. I refuse to blame this on Ben. He had some bad passes. He had a bad game, but he was 4-4. 4 turnovers, 4 touchdowns. He neutralized that stuff, man. This is on the guys like Juju. Honestly, this is on a guy like Chase Claypool who's running his mouth, and he had 60 total yards. 60 yards. Talking about they gonna stomp Cleveland, and now he's salty and saying, well, they gonna get stopped by Kansas City. Well, guess what? Chase, if you went in there, you get blown out 60-20. Honestly, there's no chance your offense, how stagnant it is and malignant, you'd have a game. Now, I'm sorry, I didn't want to talk about Pittsburgh, but I just heard the end of that, and I got to defend Cleveland, man, because you know what? Cleveland balled out with no line, no coaches, no players, and they still beat Pittsburgh.
I know Tony wants in. I do have to say, Cleveland is one of the 4 teams though, and I wish Marvin was here to call me an idiot for this, but they prepared. They are the most prepared for this COVID season. They've got to be.
And I think they have the best coach of the year. I think
they do. Oh, they do. They have the coach of the year. Oh yeah, he's definitely the coach of the year. I'm not going to spend much time on this. I agree with Justin and disagree. I agree with Richie and disagree. This is where the game changed for me. Okay, you can't win with 5 turnovers, number 1. Number 2, if you have 5 turnovers, you better have a damn good defense. And guess what? That damn good defense wasn't there. It wasn't there. It didn't happen. They could have still won this game with those 5 freaking turnovers if you stop the Cleveland Browns from putting up 2 touchdowns. Okay, they got a touchdown and they got 2 field goals. Okay, that's 13 points. If they take those points away, you actually are still in this game. As a matter of fact, you are winning this game. Okay, because it's 35-38. But you didn't do what you were supposed to do when it comes down to the head coach. The head coach didn't have him ready. Guess what, Mike Tomlin? You get an award from The Wire for having the best regular season record statistically by all coaches. Great job. You know how to win. You've never had a losing season. Great job. But guess what? You don't know how to be successful in the playoffs. And that's got to change. Okay. You got 1 Super Bowl. Great. You went to another Super Bowl. Okay, good. But since then, the last 5 years, guess who's been peaking in the back? It's been the Cincinnati Bengals. It's been the Cleveland Browns. It's been the Ravens. Okay. You can't stay where you are and keep doing what you're doing and think you're going to get a different result. Okay, that's the definition of insanity. You're insane, my friend. It doesn't work. Ben threw the 4 interceptions. He redeemed himself with the 4 touchdowns. Yes, he shouldn't have thrown the interceptions, but 2 of those interceptions, I'm going to tell you right now, 2 of those were not Ben's fault. Now, the other 2 was Ben's fault, but the other 2, the hit up in the air, the lineman dove forward and caught it. Johnson hit him in the hands. It might have been behind him, hit him in the hands, and then went to the safety in the back. Come on, man. You got to play smarter. You got to be smarter. We're not going to spend more time on the Steelers, but it is what it is. Congratulations to the Cleveland Browns. I'm a diehard Steeler fan, but Cleveland deserved this win, and they went out and got it. That's the difference. They're no longer the little brother, and guess what? As soon as there's blood in the water, and they see it, and they believe it, the Steelers will never be the same again unless they do something different, because every single team is coming next year and for the AFC North, and the Steelers better be ready for it. Sahe, I got something for you. Bills, Colts. All right, listen.
This is a game.
Listen. Josh Allen, beast. Okay,
Yeah.
You've got a beast. You've got Phillips. The aging quarterback along with Ben. Could he do it? Could he not do it? What was going to happen? He was throwing some ducks and he was throwing some dimes. But I guess that's what happens when you're an older quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. You're going to have those. But go ahead, fill us in about that game.
Yeah, I watched that game. It was a good game. It really turned around because Buffalo's defense, their red zone defense, stopped them after a turnover. I believe Indy could have went up 17-7. Instead, they went for it on 4th down and didn't get it. And Josh Allen got the ball, took him right down and scored. And then they were up 14, 14-10 at halftime. And then after that, the Bills got the ball back and they just controlled the clock. And that's really what it was. Once they got the lead right before halftime, they didn't have a chance to really come back with all the mistakes they were making. And one thing I do remember, the coaching for the Colts really let the team down because they had a couple 4th downs where they could have kicked field goals and didn't. So that's 2 field goals, 6 points. And then on the touchdown drive before half, they went for it, didn't get it. So kind of like the Steelers, they turned the ball over on downs 3 times in the first half. And they really didn't have a chance to win that game after that. I felt like if the coach, I think he was just trying to be like, well, I got to do something risky. I don't want to be too bland. I'm playing the Bills, the top team. You know what I'm saying? And one of the top teams in the AFC. We're the underdog. We got to do something crazy to take advantage of this game. And I just think he overthought it a little bit. And If they would have just took the points and just let the game come to them, they probably could have won that game. But I think the Colts really let that get away because Jonathan Taylor, that rookie running back, can really do what he want to, you know what I'm saying, coming out of the backfield. And they got away from that and they weren't able to take advantage of that because of the coach's dumb mistakes. And the Bills, they're a team you can't make mistakes against because they're solid all the way around, solid defense. They got a quarterback that's figuring it out. He's using his legs. He's got to protect himself a little bit more. But he'll get that in time. I expect the Bills to do big things coming up next week. I don't know. Who are they playing next week? The Bills are playing. You said what?
We're gonna make our predictions, so we'll talk.
Okay. Well, whoever they're playing, I think they're gonna. It's got to be the Ravens, right?
They're playing the Ravens. Yep.
Yeah. So I think. Ooh, I'll save it.
Save it.
But
You gonna say?
The Colts. They need a quarterback. So let's see what they do in the draft coming up because they got a running back. They got a solid defense. They'll be back. They just got to stay the course and maybe they draft Justin Fields to move up or something like that. They're a quarterback away.
Carson Wentz, people trying to.
Yeah, he does. That's his old coordinator. You're right. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Anyway, we're gonna talk about the Bears Saints real quick. I'm gonna have Richie cover that. Richie, tell me what's going on with this game, man. I mean, it's 21-9. It was like 7-3 at halftime. I didn't know what was going on. The Saints, Drew Brees threw for 265 yards. Kamara is a beast. Tell me what's going on.
I mean, you already said everything. No, I'm just kidding. Here's what I will say. This is how I'll describe the game in a nutshell. When the NFL ratings go down by about 10% in the 18 to 25 demographic in about 10 years, just remember the NFL showed a 3.5-hour game with the Bears showing offense as a way to their product. That is why nobody's going to watch football anymore. The Bears do not have an offense. And honestly, they had a crazy cool trick play, and it was perfect. Mitchell Trubisky, honestly, has had a bad rap there, and honestly, he needs a reboot. But I'll say this much. Javon Wims, if you haven't seen that, Google it. Anybody on the wire, Google that trick play. And Javon, it's like he forgot to catch the ball. He's like, oh shit, I'm open. It's easy. I'm in the end. I forgot to catch it. Put his hands up. So does that change the game? Of course not. Now, we can argue the dynamics and that would have put him in. The point is, they never had a chance. What I will say is this is a terrible showing by New Orleans. It is. Don't get me wrong, the Bears have a pretty reasonable defense. I refuse to call it stout. Khalil Mack, amazing, but bottom line is their defense is mostly just, mid-range and they do really well with zones. But that's why they get a lot of tackles. So this is just terrible. I expect, New Orleans should have put up more than 21 on them. Now, don't get me wrong. You play to win the game. You don't play whatever you need, whatever your game style is. You just do what you got to do. And that's what the Saints did. We talked about this earlier, and I'm a big proponent of a balanced offense. And Alvin Kamara did what he needed to do. 23 carries, 99, not 100, unfortunately, but 99 yards. That's 4 yards a carry. That's what you need. You need a dude to be carrying the ball 20 plus times. Period. It doesn't matter how good your quarterback is. That's what you need. It's not about 100 yards. He carried the ball 20 times. They try to slow down the clock and thankfully not make us watch that terrible Bears offense, which thank you, New Orleans, for that. The time of possession was 36 or almost 40 to 20. And thank Jesus for that, because it was painful to watch David Montgomery try to run. I think he averaged 1 yard a carry. They're running back in Chicago. The only team is bad at running for Steelers is the Chicago Bears. So it was just abysmal to watch this game. I did watch it, unfortunately, and my eyes are bleeding still from this game. It was not a good game. I have nothing more to say. I can't wait for the next game that Justin's about to talk about, because this was the only, in my opinion, goose egg of games that wasn't fun. every other game was electric and there was this back and forth. And this was just like, end the Bears suffering, please. Someone take him out and just shoot him. They need a quarterback. They need a running back. They need a lot. This is a team that even though they make the playoffs and they have a good defense, they're missing crucial pieces. And unlike Sahe's point with the Colts, I don't see an optimistic thing for the Bears. And honestly, the Saints need to put up a better showing or they'll lose to anybody they're going to play next, including Tampa. Tom Brady. That's kind of scary.
All right, Justo, I'm bringing him to you. It's the man that everybody in the media was talking about. You know, you haven't done much. You don't win a playoff game. You do win very well in the regular season. By that, I'm talking about Lamar Jackson going up against King Henry, 2,000-yard rusher. Oh, it's about to be on. He ran it in for a touchdown in overtime against the Ravens in the regular season. He's about to do it again. Uh-oh, wait, no, it didn't happen. Fill us in.
Yeah, Tony, for me, that's exactly what it comes down to. The final score, Baltimore 20, Tennessee 13. It's like all the analysts said ahead of the game. It's got to be which superstar is going to carry their team to victory. And that was a battle between Lamar Jackson or was it going to be Derrick Henry? And on that given day, as Tony likes to say, King Henry fell. Lamar Jackson was a mere 2 rush attempts behind Henry with 16. He brought in 136 yards and a touchdown. Derrick Henry went home empty-handed with 40 yards on the day. No touchdowns. A lot more went down in the game. Total yards for the Ravens, 401. They were moving the ball. Total yards for Titans, 209. I don't know. It was a battle of the superstars, and one of them didn't show up, he couldn't figure it out. And I don't want to say that he's not the caliber of running back that we've said he was all season, but something was up because that is not King Henry that we saw. That is not even a good showing. I mean, he had 14 carries for 40 yards. Not to say that I could do that, but I bet Sahe could come close.
No.
All right. So listen, guys, since wild card weekend's over, we only have a few more weeks of football and why not have some fun? So to be the champion of the Wires game, the only game that we're going to play from here into the Super Bowl is we're going to pick the teams for the division round and then the championship round and then the Super Bowl. You're awarded points if you guess them right. Okay. So we're going to finish this up real quick. Everybody can come off mute. I'm going to just go right around the horn real quick. Who you got? Rams versus Packers in Lambeau. Sahe.
I got the Packers.
Packers. Richie.
Packers, biggest mismatch of the playoffs.
Packers. Justo.
Come on, Rams. I got to give it to him.
Okay, you're going with the Rams. Justin's going to go.
City. Upset City, baby.
Justin's going to go on the other side. I like it, but guess what? I'm going with Richie and Sahe on this. It's definitely going to be the Packers. All right, Sahe, coming back to you. Ravens playing in Buffalo. Who's got this one?
Lamar Jackson's going to run all over, but Ravens.
All right, Richie.
Honestly, that's a great pick with Sahe. I think the running of Baltimore is going to be challenged for Buffalo, but I just think Allen's got some magic right now. I'm going with Buffalo.
All right. Justo.
Man, I don't know if Buffalo is ready for the combination of that physical football and that unexplainable quarterback. I'm going to have to go with Baltimore. I'm with Sahe.
All right. And to bring it even, I'm going with Richie on this. I'm going with Josh Allen. I'm going with the Bills. It's at home. Hey, I got to. And boy, Diggs is going to dig in for another big game. I'm calling it right now. Browns versus the Chiefs in the Chiefs' hometown. Yeah, baby, Kansas City. Who you got, Sahe?
Oh, that's tough. I'm going to go with the Browns.
Ooh, Richie.
Sahe. And I'll tell you what, Cleveland's been on a roll. They've been playing great, and Kansas City's been playing some stinkers. But I'm not going to go with the upset here. I think Kansas City.
All right. Justo.
I know that it's not popular. I haven't seen enough. And they're as you mentioned, they're not whole. They're not ready. I don't think they're ready for it. It's too much. KC's gonna win it.
All right, and Sahe, you were going to be all alone because I already did my pick, and it is with Mahomes. It's with Kelsey. It's with Hill. It's with I got to go all the way. And so I'm going to go with the Chiefs. Last game, Bucks versus the Saints in New Orleans. Who you got, Sahe? I already know.
Oh, let me think. Tom Brady and the Bucks gonna take it. Let's go.
All right, Richie.
Yeah, I'll tell you what. New Orleans always loses, and they're gonna lose. Actually, before the championship, I actually am picking Tampa Bay. They play.
All right.
Tampa Bay's. I think they're gonna get that upset. I don't think they'll beat Green Bay, but they're gonna beat New Orleans for sure.
All right, Justin.
Man, Drew Brees is on that cusp of quarterbacks that might not get another go. I'm gonna go with Saints. I think New Orleans. I'm sorry, Sahe. I'm sorry to break your heart, but
it's okay. Ladies and gentlemen, you've been watching The Wire. I did pick the Buccaneers to upset the Saints. We will find out next Wednesday what's going down. Y'all stay nice. Y'all stay fresh. We'll catch you next time. It's The Wire on Wednesday.
Hey, you would pick the Bucks over everybody. You would go right in.
I mean, honestly, the reason.